So a busy and action-packed year in Africa's most populous nation, according to many, with the country buffeted by security crisis from different directions. There is Boko Haram, there is ISWAP, there is banditry, there is kidnapping in the north, there are secessionist agitations in the southeast, as well as pockets of violence between farmers and herdsmen. Large swaths of the nation sometimes seemed ungovernable. In the middle of the year, the presidency sought to gain back control of the narrative with the indefinite suspension of the social networking service Twitter. Then came the arrest and trial of the secessionist leader Nnamdi Kanu, who was accused of terrorism, treason, and inciting public violence. And just a few weeks ago, an inquiry into last year's EndSARS protest found that the Nigerian armed forces shot and killed anti-police brutality protesters, even though the report was contested. So what do this and many other developments mean for Nigeria in the next year? Well, one man who has been prominent on the political scene in Nigeria from his activist days in the era of military rule to the tumultuous and often shaky and uncertain years of democracy is Senator Shehu Sani. He is a former lawmaker who represented Kaduna Central Senatorial District in the 8th National Assembly. He is also a playwright and a human rights activist. And he now joins me in the studio. Senator Shehu Sani, you are welcome to the Arise interview. Thank you very much for finding time to be with us this afternoon. I was just thinking, as the year 2021 comes to a close, looks like the biggest issue on the political scene is the matter of direct party primaries. The president refused to sign the Electoral Act passed by the National Assembly because he objected to at least making it compulsory for all the political parties to hold direct primaries. What do you think about that? Although you are a prolific commentator, I haven't heard your comment on this particular issue.
Well, thank you for having me in this program once again. First and foremost, the basic and fundamental reason why Nigerians agitated and clamored for electoral reforms is the view held by Nigerians that the present electoral system is flawed. We have been unable to achieve free, fair, and credible elections, and there are issues that have arisen which we believe those who crafted the electoral laws 20 years ago have not foreseen. So the idea of reforming our electoral system is to have a near perfect electoral system where at least we can have credible elections that will see to the emergence of leadership that are legitimate in the country. So reforming the electoral laws is one of it, and amending it in particular. And that has been through the National Assembly and sent to the presidency, to the president for his accent. It's now very clear, right from the period of the hesitation of the president to sign that bill, it's clear that there are political hands and intrigues that came in. And the key issues in that electoral reform is the direct primaries and the electronic transmission of result. Now, if you have gone through the comments and positions of the political elites in the last 3 to 4 weeks, it's clear that they are opposed to direct primaries. And people who are outside of the political realm need to understand what direct primaries is and what is not. Well, the idea of having a direct primary is to give each and every card-carrying member of a party the equal right to elect who is going to be the candidate of his party. as against an indirect primaries, where it is only the party executives that they are called exco or delegates that normally nominate or select such candidates. Now, direct primaries will be able to check a number of things. One is money politics, and one is it will reduce the influence of godfathers, and governors will find it difficult for them to impose candidates because they can fund the exco, but it's difficult for them to fund it. So now it's clear that the governors are fundamentally opposed to direct primaries in the sense that that will affect the opportunity and capacity of them to impose candidates. So the president bowed to the pressure of the governors and other persons who wants to take up the indirect system for them to always have their way. And now the second issue is the electronic transmission of result. We have seen how the Senate or the National Assembly as a whole tried to invent some form of roadblocks by drafting the NCC and also giving them the powers to determine whether results should be announced or not, which is a clear violation of the mandate and the constitutional mandate of INEC. So now they have been able to prevent the president from assenting because of the issue of direct primaries. And now, from what has been thrown to the media in the last 1 week also, there is a possibility that even the electronic transmission of result can be subverted, because they have started saying that many local governments don't have internet facilities and all these things here. So the whole idea of the electoral reform will be dead on arrival if the issue of direct primaries and that of electronic transmission of results is removed.
But why did you say electronic transmission? The president didn't cite that as one of the reasons for not signing the Electoral Act.
Well, what I can tell you from my own experience as a lawmaker, when the president sent back the bill, which he has done, to the National Assembly, so the way in which the National Assembly wants to wash his hand off is to say that they are going to consult the constituents, which is simply an attempt to use the constituents to further modify the law to suit their own interests. And if you look at it, the moment this bill was sent back to the National Assembly, then there were some news items being dropped around that we don't have internet facilities, and this not having internet facilities is almost on all papers. So the question which we ask is that Nigeria, there are about 120 million Nigerians with active bank accounts, and these bank accounts use internet facilities, and there are banks in all the local government, and there is no local government in Nigeria that will tell you that banking doesn't take place because there are no internet facilities. So how many number of voters do we have? And as a country, it's less than 70 million. So if our banking system can take care of 120 million people, there is no reason why we should not be able to use the facilities of science, technology, and internet to conduct elections. So all they are trying to do now is to drop the hint that they also want to remove the element of electronic transmission of result. And the president can only sign with what has been tabled before him.
Before him.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Senator. We are watching the Arise interview. Plenty more still ahead as we continue our review of politics in Nigeria in 2021 and look ahead to the new year with Senator Shehu Sani. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the Arise interview. I still have with me in the studio the author, playwright, human rights activist, and prominent political actor, Senator Shehu Sani. He was the president of the Civil Rights Congress of Nigeria and was a leading figure in the struggle for the restoration of democracy in Nigeria. We have been reviewing the political landscape in Nigeria over the past year, and we'll continue the chat. Senator, before we went on that short break, you said something about one of the things that direct primaries is expected to do is to reduce the influence of money back. How will direct primaries really reduce the influence of money bags? Because if there are going to be primaries in every ward or in every polling unit as an aspirant, you still need a lot of money to mobilize your supporters to go out and vote for you.
Well, when we speak about direct primaries, there were instances and there was an experience of it. Well, in an indirect primary system, a candidate who is desirous of using money to win the candidacy knows the number of delegates, and then he also budgets for what he's going to give each one of them. For example, in every ward, they will say like there are 4 or 5 delegates, and if you have 100 wards, you will count how many number of people you will pay. And if there are 5 candidates, if this one gives 50,000, another one will raise it up to 70, another one will raise it up to 80, and then 100,000. In most cases, the highest bidder takes the ticket. That is how it happens in most times. And another thing with an indirect system is that the incumbent executive being in control of state power and resources can use his influence to pressurize the executives to simply go his way. But if you have an indirect system, it's going to be very difficult for a candidate, a money bag, to share such money to multitude of people. And now, in that respect, that's why you will see that those who are specifically opposed to the direct primaries are first and foremost the governors, the incumbent governors who are in place. Because if you now adopt a direct primaries, it's going to be a free for all. Because now there is no enough money to give to hundreds of thousands of people to vote for your candidate. And it's going to be very open and glaring. Everyone stands on a queue, and you will know the number of people this candidate has and the number of people that candidate has. But in an indirect system, all these transactions are done behind the scene and in a closed door. This is the candidate we want, and every delegate will be given 100,000 naira. Sometimes it's even done in dollars. So it's now going to be difficult for godfathers and governors and money bags to control a direct primaries. And if they know that they can control it, they couldn't have been opposed to it. So that is the difference between the two.
That sounds interesting, really. Well, Senator, I will move on to another issue. I was just wondering, the year 2021, by the standards of Nigerian politics, has been relatively calm. But for you, it was a bit tumultuous. Some years ago, you left APC and went to PDP. Left APC and went to PRP. In June this year, we heard that you had resigned from PRP. We are not sure that where you are going, stepped aside. And then in September, we heard that you went to PDP.
Yes.
How are you making all this move? You are looking like a political rolling stone.
Well, I'm not a political. It's better to be a rose than a headsman. But let me tell you the fact is that we founded the APC, at least in Kaduna State.
You did.
Because I was one of the founding fathers.
You did, yes.
But later, the person who became the governor of the state now restructured the party around himself, as many governors do. So it is either you kowtow and comply with what he wants, or you will simply be marginalized or ostracized out of the system.
Yeah.
So that happened. APC is a party structured around the governors of their state. Now, it became impossible for anybody who is not going to bow down or become subservient to the governor to remain in that party. So in my own state, not just me, Isa Ashiru Kodan, Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmed, Hung Uyi, and so many founding fathers of the party now decided to pull out.
Yeah.
Now, in the Senate, there was a wave of defection from the APC to the PDP.
Yeah.
But at that very time, I was approached to join the PDP. But I could not, because my own uncle, Balari Musa,
Yeah.
after a lot of consultations with him, he is the national chairman of the PRP.
PRP.
Yes. So after discussing with him, now I decided to join the PRP.
Yes.
So after joining the PRP, I contested
Yeah.
for the Senate, and I lost.
Yeah.
Having lost, what happened later was the fact that the PRP was embroiled in a certain internal crisis when Balari Musa was alive.
Yeah.
And then two leadership emerged. One from a dear professor from Kano, and then one from Falalu Bello in Kaduna. And now the Balarabe himself found it difficult to bring these two sides together.
Yeah.
And as time goes on, we are confronted with a vicious political enemy in Kaduna State. And the options we have is to remain in different parties and for the APC to win the 2023 election. So we had private meetings with the PDP and some PRP members, and then the decision was that let us all gather together under one umbrella and see how we can evict Nasir El-Rufai and his APC from Kaduna State. And on the ground of that, it's impossible to do that, because if I am going to pick the governorship ticket of PRP and there's going to be a governorship candidate from PDP, it is impossible for us to win the 2023 election. And when I contested the Senate, most of those who voted for me were from the PDP and the APC. But now, particularly from the PDP side. So my contest as a senatorial candidate of PRP did a lot of injury to the PDP, and now the APC won. So we want to avoid that scenario this time around. And as such, I decided to join the PDP, and then we gather forces together, and then for us to remove El-Rufai and his stooges out of Kaduna State.
That is a very interesting strategy. The only problem is that you explain why you had to leave APC, because the party in the state was restructured around the governor. Is the situation different in PDP as we see it in various states?
Let me tell you the difference.
Yes.
You see, in 2015, I won the Senate because in my party, we don't have a serving governor. We all came newly, and nobody has any executive power to demand that everyone should bow down before him. So in states where you don't have a government, a party doesn't have a government,
it's more democratic.
Such things doesn't exist. Like the PDP in Kaduna State as it is now. Almost it's all on the ground, and everyone is at least co-equal in relatively. But in a state where you have a governor, whoever emerges as a senator or whoever is members of House of Reps must be somebody from the kitchen cabinet of the governor. So in Kaduna State, as far as the PDP is concerned, we don't have that are imperial control as they have in the APC.
Yeah, there is that advantage. Well, you mentioned as an example that if you were to pick gubernatorial ticket, what exactly are you gunning for in 2023? You want to be senator again, or you want to be governor, or even president? Let's be a bit clear. Yes.
I don't have any presidential ambition. I don't think it's within my own sin to have. But for now, I have made up my mind to contest the governorship of Kaduna State. And the reasons are very simple. I want to unite my people, people from northern Kaduna and southern Kaduna, Muslim and Christians. I want to ensure order and security is restored to our state. I want to also ensure that there is shared prosperity between the people of the northern part of Kaduna and the southern part of Kaduna. I want to unfold a developmental program where people will be empowered, will be enriched, at the same time development taking place. We want to do away with a leadership that is arrogant, that is self-centered, and that felt that human dignity and human value doesn't matter. We want to secure our state. Kaduna is a state that have suffered decades of ethno-religious violence. And I believe that what the state needs now is a leader that can symbolize unity, order, harmony, togetherness and love, which is lacking today. Our state is divided along ethnic and religious lines, and this division is widening. So a leader that can serve as a bridge is what is needed, and I believe that I have that qualities to give to the people of Kaduna State.
It is interesting. We have barely a minute left in this segment, but Senator, the PDP has an image problem. It was ruling the country for 16 years, including in Kaduna State. Now it lost the election in 2015, couldn't regain it in 2019. Do you think it has overcome this image problem? In what way do you think the party has changed for voters to trust it again? In 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, I'm not part of the 16 years of PDP. So I'm not part of their past, but I want to be part of their future. One. Secondly, the actors that destroyed the country for 16 years are very much present, have all migrated from the PDP to APC. Most of the governors, especially those of them from the north, with the exception of that of Borno and Yobe State, and perhaps some few others, almost 90% of the governors were all from PDP. The ministers of Buhari are mostly from PDP. So with the exception of Buhari and very few others, I believe that it is the same 16 years actors that have moved to this party. So I think if there is any image, I think the image has already been taken from where they used to be to where they are now. So for me, I can say that for 16 years of those who destroyed this country are all available in both the ruling and the opposition party. But we are talking of the future now.
It's interesting. Well, you are watching the Arise interview. Plenty more still ahead as we continue our review of politics in Nigeria in 2021 and look ahead to the new year with Senator Shehu Sani. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the Arise interview, where we speak to the newsmakers as well as ordinary people doing extraordinary things around the world and featuring the voices at the heart of the stories. I'm Mahmoud Jega. We have been looking at the issues, news, and highlights that made the headlines this year. I have with me in the studio the prominent political figure, Senator Shehu Sani. Senator, thank you very much for remaining with us. When you were in the Senate, you made this statement that the administration approaches some corruption cases with insecticide, but some other cases it sprays deodorant. So if you are running as a PDP candidate towards 23, do you expect to be visited with insecticide or with deodorant?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the broader issues that affect this country is that the president and this government must leave behind a legacy of credible elections, because the former president, Jonathan Goodluck, has been able to prove that to the country and to the world. And he sacrificed his own ambition and bow down to the will of the people. So what is most important for us is to have an electoral system that will make it easier and possible for people to assume leadership position in a process that is credible and transparent. And as for me, it is not like what they say, a do or die affair. As far as I'm concerned, I am not a career politician. I'm into politics to practicalize those things which I hold dear as convictions, as principle, as conscience. So I believe that if we are desirous of building our country, the interest of the country should come first before our own personal ambition. We are undergoing a serious crisis, turbulence and storm as a nation today. Killings, terrorism, banditry, separatist agitations from different parts of the country. So I think our politics should be that one that will unite Nigeria and that will provide the opportunity of leaders to do what is needful to keep this country one, and also to move from where we are to the future that will be of value, of interest, and of benefit to all of us.
But do we seriously expect that? Because we are going into the year 2022. It is not the election year, but it is the deputy election year, because I suppose all the political parties will be nominating their candidates within the year 2022 towards the 2023 elections. With the situation as you describe it, a lot of insecurity, a lot of killings, and then the politicians will likely come, because this your goal of trying to dislodge the APC from power in Kaduna say is not likely to be a gentle affair. So as Nigerians, what should we expect on the political scene going into the year 2022?
Well, what is going to happen in 2023 is going to be given birth to in 2022. 2022 is most likely to be more important than 2023, because this is the year where parties will bring their first 11 before the country, and it's also a year where Nigerians will know who are those of the buffet to lead them from the executive and from the legislative arm of the state. So it's going to be a turbulent year, especially for political parties, because there's going to be a lot of horse trading. Most likely there's going to be more defections, and there's going to be more split. As you can see, the opposition party has been able to at least navigate those sensitive areas with a convention that has produced a leader. But the ruling party is still in crisis and crisis of confidence of itself, because they have been shifting their convention from June, July, August, and then it led up to December, and now it's January, and that January is not even certain, because they have two to three kind of crises. One is where will the power shift to, either the north or the south, and whichever side they take, there will be consequences for it. And then secondly, who is going to be the chairman of the party? And from my own knowledge of that party, there exist clusters of power now, whereby which of the camp is going to be in control of the National Working Committee and National Executive Committee of the party. So all these things here are more. Now Nigerians will be watching the ruling party and see how they are going to navigate these storms, whether they do it safely or it will be the final burial for the party itself. So as far as the opposition party is concerned, what is ahead of it is simply the primary elections. But the ruling party will have to survive the convention. If power shifts to the north, certainly there will be consequences from the southwestern part of Nigeria, who were a component part of those who brought APC to power. And if power shifted to the southwestern part of Nigeria, and certainly there is going to be a response from the northern part of Nigeria.
So is this a PDP calculation that let's wait for APC to scatter and then we pick the pieces?
Well, from my own understanding, in most times in Africa, ruling party implodes rather than explodes. And the PDP, when it was a ruling party, it was the implosion that led to the downfall of the government. And as such, the PDP now is looking towards that implosion in the APC, especially where the power is going to shift.
That is true. Well, distinguished Senator, we have a minute to round up the program. I was just looking at your afro hair. And I remember that there was a 5 million naira prize in Kaduna State for anyone who brings a clip of your hair. Please, who is your barber so that I will go and collect a sample for 5 million?
Well, I think my wife has pressurized me to cut my hair because it's creating a lot of problems. So I've been able to do that. And I just felt it is all part of the politics. And especially people who have no hair are always envious of those who have hair. And that is the problem which I have. I want to have one of our problems with the governor of Kaduna State, who always talk of my hair because he doesn't have any.
He must be envious of your hair. Yeah, but it was a dangerous thing to say.
Well,
wasn't
it is, and surprisingly, the guy who said that, give him 5 million naira to cut my hair, is now the speaker of the Kaduna State House of Assembly, and I hold no grudges. It's all part of politics. And tomorrow we may likely be in the same place.
Exactly.
It is politics.
It happens in politics. Yes. Well, distinguished Senator, that's it for this edition of the Arise interview. Do join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, goodbye and thank you very much for watching. Thank you.